Getty government insiders say Theresa May and David Davis are seeking up an arbitration mechanism. It warns that 37 directives being drawn up by Brussels could be imposed in the two-year so-called implementation phase after the UK quits. In March 2019, one of the most controversial proposals would compel every household in the country to have 4 separate recycling bins. Another could force people to insure all off-road vehicles, including tractors, golf buggies and mobility scooters. Government insiders said Theresa May and EU Exit Secretary David Davis are seeking to set up an arbitration mechanism so that any new EU laws are not imposed without discussion. The supposed purpose of the transition period is to extend British membership of the single market to give businesses time to adjust. Jane argued, but the leak of the paper drawn up by officials is likely to fuel tensions among Tory MPs over the expected period of adjustment. Some Eurosceptic Tories have already warned that Britain is at risk being turned into a vassal state during the 2 years. But senior EU figures, including the European Parliament's Brexit coordinator Guy Verhofstadt, have described the acceptance of Brussels law during the implementation phase as not negotiable, and last night a leaked Brussels document revealed that the 27 remaining EU member nations want the power to directly penalise Britain for any alleged rule breaches during implementation rather than having to take action through the EU Court of Justice. A leaked Brussels document revealed that the 27 remaining EU members want power to penalise Britain. It could mean British firms are suddenly locked out of parts of the single market if rules are not followed. Jane Ardia of the campaign group Get Britain Out said the supposed purpose of the transition period is to extend British membership of the single market to give businesses time to adjust. The EU's threat to restrict our single market access while still taking huge amounts of money from us now renders this period pointless. Regulations that could come into force during the transition period are understood to include an energy efficiency directive, which ministers have warned could unfairly penalise Britain. Another will give EU watchdogs new powers to oversee financial activity, including City of London transactions. Limits on the use of phosphate fertilizers in agriculture are also being proposed in a move that has angered farming groups in the UK. The most contentious proposal is likely to be a new waste framework directive, which could require Britain to increase recycling levels from 44% to 70%. Ministers insist the target is not feasible without separate bins for food waste, garden waste and recycling for all households. Yet the leaked Whitehall report is reported to have warned the directive has a high likelihood of materializing. Friday, February 2, 2018. The moment Jacob Rees-Mogg is confronted by a masked man last night. Senior Tory MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, chairman of the 60-strong European Reform group of Eurosceptic conservative backbenchers, said the range and extent of these laws covers almost everyone in the country, and we would have no say at all over some laws that we could now veto. The chance for a vengeful EU to cause regulatory damage to us may be too great for them to resist. The government needs to be strong in refusing to accept new laws once we have left. Backbench Tory MP Peter Bone urged the government to stick to its pledge of ensuring new laws are not introduced without Britain getting a say. What we shouldn't do is give the EU carte blanche to pass any new laws they want. That would be ridiculous, he said. The issue of new EU directives is expected to be discussed at a crunch meeting of the Cabinet's Brexit subcommittee today and tomorrow. Downing Street officials played down concerns, saying the EU decision-making process is so slow under EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker that only directives already in the pipeline over which the UK had a say were likely to come into force after Brexit. But one cabinet minister, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, has called for Britain to refuse to accept any more EU rules.